Oh, there we go. I think the sound was off. Getting ready to show up for a listing appointment. So a lot of the work, I think, is prior to the appointment. The more work you do prior to the appointment, the better prepared you're going to be. Especially if these people are calling you, you've never been to their house, you have no idea who these people are. You know, trust but verify everything. So what I typically will do is, you know, if I get a call, hey, we're getting ready to list our property, I have a little dialogue with them, kind of get an idea of their motivation. Are they looking to buy again? Because obviously if they are, I would love to represent them on that side, and if they're going out of state, you know, get a referral from referring them to somebody else, okay? Then I get some information about, you know, have you done anything to the property since you've owned it? Get a little bit of information about who's on title, all of which I'm going to then verify, trust but verify. And I think...
I'm sorry, you asked them have they done anything to the property since they've owned it?
Mm-hmm. Any upgrades?
So, okay, so that's...
Yeah.
So do you ask them like how long since they've done it? I mean,
exactly.
What details you get? Okay.
Yeah, I want to know everything about it. Now, you know, it's been my experience that they tend to, you know, exaggerate a little bit. And so trust but verify. So after I get off the phone with this person that, you know, said, hey, we're getting ready to list our house, can you come talk to us? First thing I do is I get information on the property itself. I go search public records. I go on Realist, check it out. Super important you know who actually holds title, because the person you're having the conversation with has to be the decision maker. And if there's more than one person on title, you better have both of those people at that property. So I'll give you an example. I've got two listings. Well, one's coming online tomorrow. One is an escrow. On the title, it's a married couple. The person that actually is the sole owner of the property, their husband is deceased and they are remarried. So if you were to show up to an appointment, this person, last name is different, and a spouse who's not even on title. So you have to know. Now I happen to know these people personally. So first thing I do is I tell the title company, hey, I need a lien report, I need a home book for this. By the way, here's how they hold title. Tell me what they need to do when they go to sign at the title company. All of this ahead of time. Because 9 times out of 10, they don't even know that they never got around to changing the deed. Here's another example, the one that's going on tomorrow. They are sole and separate owners, unmarried woman, who did a legal name change. The title of the property is still in her old name. Again, those are all things you want to know ahead of time. The other thing, of course, go ahead.
Do they need to do this prior to listing, or do they need to do it prior to it closing?
It does not have to be done in most cases prior to listing. They'll do an affidavit and record a deed at the closing table. Okay. The other thing is they'll say, oh, it's got to be at least 1,600 and something square feet, because when I had an appraisal done, that's what they told me it was. Again, I'll give you the example. I've got a property in Henderson right now. They swore that the actual square footage was bigger than what the public record states. The appraisal that they got done when they did a refi included the carport. They did an exterior square footage. They didn't do interior square footage. They never walked inside the property. And so in their mind, they're stuck at this 1,600 and something square feet. The actual livable square feet is what's listed in the public records. There's all kinds of situations where you want to know exactly what it is that you're dealing with. If it's an unpermitted addition, things like that, there's always a discrepancy. Can you clean that up prior to listing it? You can. What would the assessor typically say? Well, you've had this addition since X number of years. You've been underpaying your taxes. Most people don't want to do that. And so there's all kinds of reasons to trust but verify. Check what's on the public record. Okay? So number one, search the property on Realist, get to know the property a little bit more. Number two, find out who actually owns the property. Because if you're going to a listing appointment with John Smith and Jane Smith is still on title, why is she still on title? Why isn't she involved in this conversation? Who is she? Get all of that information. And again, some of you don't know, trust but verify. Get that identification. I've had things in a trust. And guess what I do? I say, bring your trust paperwork. Because if you don't know who they are, How do you know they're the authorized signatory, or they're the one that should be signing in the first place?
Go ahead.
Do you meet if you haven't met the owners, do you meet them beforehand before going to the house?
Sometimes, yes, it just depends. I mean, most of the time, if I'm going to a listing appointment, and I haven't met them, it will be at the property, but somebody always knows where I'm going, right?
So, to add on to that, do you get their IDs when you meet them?
If I don't know them,
their house?
absolutely. If I don't know them, you betcha. Because what do you want to spend all this time and energy finding out that there's
Listing a house, because they could be squatters and.
yeah, there's a vesting issue of some sort. They're the brother of the trust. They're not the authorized signatory.
And they're dead.
Exactly.
Joe Slope the midget. Okay.
Exactly. And then again, number 3, you're going to do a bunch of research ahead of time. Number 4.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to ask so many questions. I should know all this. But, oh my God, it left me. It was there. I just swear, it was just right there. Okay.
So I'm gonna. This is okay. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Before it goes again. So is Realist the best for us to use, or is there better? Is Realist going to give us the most accurate information?
It's all based on public recorded documents.
So Realist is.
Yeah.
So, because that's usually what I use. And then I thought that somebody said you should go to more public records. When I tried to go into, so now they're charging us.
Exactly.
And so Realist gives us, I thought, the most accurate information.
Yes.
Anyway, so why would I go
You
there?
can't. You don't have access to the recorded documents on Realist, but you have access to the recordation date and who was and how it was recorded.
Okay.
Right.
You can also go to the Clark County Assessor's Office.
You can, but they now charge.
They're not charging you for
No,
documents.
on the website?
If you want the document, they charge.
Yeah, if you.
Right.
But
when I go there, it gives me what's on Realist. So that's
Correct.
what I'm saying.
It populates off of the recorded documents.
So that's why I wanted to make sure that I didn't need to go there anymore, because I did that when I first started, and I could get documents when I first started. Now they're charging.
You can no longer do that.
And so I thought, that doesn't make any sense, so that's what I wanted to know. So Realist is okay, all right.
Now, the other thing, and this is later down on the checklist, is you can have the title company do some stuff for it, but we'll get to that. This first part of this is just an overview, and then we're going to dig in a little bit into further detail. Number 4, mortgage history. Because you may not know, they may not know their current balance. A lot of times on the phone, I will find out what's your estimated payoff, because at the end of the day, they want to know how much are they going to make off of this house. But then I am going to double check if there's still a recorded line of credit, if there's still whatever, a second on there, they may have forgotten about it. And if that wasn't recorded when it was paid off, there's a little bit of title work that has to be done. Then if the property was ever on the MLS, I am going to check that. Now, with that being said, they're not always on the MLS. There's I think it's what, 10 years. After 10 years, it falls off. But if it is on the MLS ahead of time and I've never been to the house, I'm going to look at those pictures. So I at least have a rough idea of, what I'm getting myself into, for lack of a better word. At that point, once I know about the property itself, is when I go into Matrix. I start in Matrix, and then I start to pull comps. Now, we've talked about comps before, but just again, here's what I try to do. If possible, same subdivision. It's not always possible. I'm telling you, with the inventory situation that we're in, getting 90 days of sales in a subdivision can be really tricky sometimes, when you might have 3 sales in the last 150 days. So you can't always get same subdivision, but if it's possible, get into the same subdivision. Try to use a range of similar GLA. The exact square footage is not reality in most cases. So if it's 1,800 square feet, do 1,600 to 2,000 as your range, something like that. You might have to go expand a little bit, but try to keep it within that range. If it's a single story, try to use only single stories in pulling comps. Pool versus no pool. Obviously, that's going to have an effect on value. What other amenities does that property have? Try to find that. Sold within the last 90 days, if possible. It gets tricky, again, because of our lack of inventory. And if possible, do try to keep it within a half-mile radius search. Avoid distressed sales, even on REOs and short sales. Okay, try to avoid those, even if it's a potential distressed sale that you're going to be listing, because when they go to do a BPO, they're not going to include those. They just aren't. I'm just telling you now. Trust me, been there, done that. I got the ticket stub to prove it, okay? And then what I do is once I have my comps that I like, I want to have evidence because I call it the yeah but. Yeah, but my house is super special. It's amazing. That frog in the front yard will make all the difference. People will drive up, they will see that ceramic frog, they will fall in love with the house, right? And so I will do a 12 photo view of all the comps that I use so they can actually see for themselves. The next thing that is never a bad idea, because they're going to go there anyway, print out his estimate. And make sure you include the part on the bottom, the disclaimer, the accuracy level. Here's how we're getting our information from a satellite, from a computer program. That's how we generate this estimate for you. Because rarely are they correct. They're either way low or way high, but rarely are they exactly right on. Sometimes they are, but not very often. Okay, and then before you go, if you haven't practiced handling objections, practice that. There's another yeah, but. Yeah, but the guy down the street said he's going to list it for 1%. Are you going to match him? Practice those objections. Yeah, but the guy down the street said if he can get both part ends of the transaction, he'll knock another whatever off. Okay? Practice all of being able to handle those objections. What are you going to say? Because it's going to come up. And you're getting to know who that person is you're talking to will make all the difference in the world as to whether you use one objection handler or another. I've shared this story I've actually done once or twice. Yes, we can talk about my commission. I start at 6. How high do you want to go? And that worked. They shut up. They didn't talk about it again. We listed it at 6%. But every person's different. They got a chuckle out of it. We moved on. I penciled in the 6% and off we went, right? But will that work for every person? No. You got to know who you're talking to. Then, in addition to that, I then will go into RPR and create a property report. Try to pull those same comps. My only word of advice is don't overuse the little slider in there when you can adjust each comp, right? All of a sudden, you're adding $60,000 of value into a comp. That's not gonna work. So just be careful. In fact, if you haven't been to the property before, leave it alone. Make the adjustments right then and there on a device, and just show them the range. Yeah, the range is 347 to 520. Great, that gives you some wiggle room, right? And then you can show them why it's not 520. You can show them why it's not 347, but here's where it actually sits, okay? And then I would send it to them ahead of time, digitally, or like I said, you're going to bring it with you and then play with it while you're there, okay? They're super impressed with all the data that's in there. They love that program. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to preview the neighborhood if possible, day or two ahead of time. Take pictures of the outside, include that in my reports that I'm going to bring with me. Obviously, you want to order a home book from a title company, have all that information ahead of time. This is what public records are telling everybody that wants to know about the property. And then prepare a digital marketing presentation. Breakthrough Broker has a template. Make sure you have something about the seller process. You don't know how long it's been since they've sold a home. You need to make sure they understand. Make sure you have something about preparing their house for the sale. There's home warranty companies or title companies that have templates on that. Prepare and print the listing documents. I don't show up without that. They might end up signing it digitally later, but by golly, it's going to be in my hand. Oh, ready? Okay, here we go. Oh, out comes the folder. Talk about what makes you different. Something to also think about is to bring a tape measure or a laser measure to check the room dimensions. Okay, and then the last thing prior to going would be to, if you choose to use this, and I couldn't print it out because of our Wi-Fi issues, there is a rooftop team member checklist that goes over all the things that the team uses. If you're not a team agent, you might want to also consider using some of those, and I'll give those to you. So that's all in a nutshell what I do prior to going to the listing appointment. Okay?